help me welcome onto our Monday night Platinum Teaching Call Presidential Directors Craig and Ellis.
Wow, that's fantastic. Thank you very much, Vincent. And it's an absolute honor and a privilege to be on this call tonight. And I also just wanted to say thank you very much to you and Yolandi for really being inside our lives and for helping us and giving us direction and for helping us to create the vision and to create the life that we have today. Thank you very much for your mentorship and everything and all your love that you give to us. And tonight's topic is an exciting one. It's Vision 2020. And you can play around with this so much as we're putting this talk together tonight. Really, it cast me back to the year in 1999 when everybody was getting excited for the year 2000 to kick in. And I remember thinking, people were so skeptical. They were thinking about the Y2K, which basically meant that computers were going to crash when it hits 2000, because that was only programmed up to 1999. So all through my life, I heard lots of people that were the doom and gloomers, and they always said that the world was going to end. And this was one of those dates when people said the world is going to end in 2000. But there was a whole bunch of us that were so excited because we didn't think the world would end because we were too young. And we also thought, man, are we going to have one heck of a party? And so some of my friends, actually, we went down to Durban and we went to a friend's house on the bluff in Durban, and it was right on top of the hill, and it was the most amazing house. It had a 360-degree of the whole of Durban. It was absolutely beautiful. And of course, everybody that was there, they were just in this huge big party mode, and we were celebrating the year 2000 to come in. And there was these beautiful fireworks that went up, all the different colors, and there was a lot of money that was spent to actually celebrate and to bring in the year 2000. And I remember looking on the TV, and there was all of the different countries that had spent lots of money just to celebrate the new century coming in. And so I'll never ever forget that day when it went into 2000, and it was such a celebration. But amongst all the perceptions and the predictions of what was going to happen after the year 2000, there were some very exciting in the last 20 years to take us to 2020.
So yes, indeed. Good evening, everybody. In the last 20 years, actually brought a lot of exciting things. If you look at what happened in the last 20 years and how far we actually moved from that time when we celebrated the starting of a new century. So I thought, just for some fun tonight, I'm going to share with you some of the things that humanity invented in the last 20 years. And I think you would be absolutely amazed to remember that we had a time when these things that I'm going to mention just now wasn't even there. Things like, in 2000, the year 2000, they developed the camera phone, a phone that could take a photograph. In 2000, they also developed the USB flash drive. And Wikipedia only came in 2001, and so did Bluetooth. Facebook and Google only came in 2004. YouTube came in 2005. iPhones were only there from 2007. And they also invented very interesting other things, like a sensor that sniffs out gluten. So you can put a little bit of food in this sensor machine, and it will tell you with a smiley face or a frowny face whether there's gluten and what you intend to eat. They also invented a smart umbrella, an umbrella that tells you when it's going to rain or when it's not going to rain. And it also sent you a message to say, hey, you left me behind. They also developed a solar jacket that you can have charged in the sun during the day so that you can wear it and see its luminous color at nighttime when you go jogging. And a super stethoscope that you could use in order to feel somebody's heartbeat with a stethoscope and then transfer the heartbeat onto your smartphone. Now, that is progression, I would think. But then there's also interesting things that happened in the last 20 years regarding network marketing. And I will share some specific statistics with you, just as recent as 2007-18. Number one, the research had shown, that the top income earners in network marketing in the last 20 years are either women or couples. That's an interesting thing to know. In 2017, there were about 116.7 million network marketing distributors in the entire world. 116.7 million. Between 2012 and 2017, network marketing showed a growth of 64% in Africa and in the Middle Eastern countries alone. Since 2009, network marketers have earned as much as $600 billion in commission. And in 2017 alone, network marketers earned $76 billion in commission. So network marketing over the last 8 years at least has shown consistent growth all over the world. And then, of course, there were also some statistics and trends and developments as far as wellness and nutrition is concerned. So it is reported that in 2017 already, consumers indicated that they are really more interested in plant-based foods. They were interested from then on already in food that contains healthy protein. And they were interested in foods that fight inflammation. Turmeric, of course, like most of you know, is a trend in itself. And lately, more and more people started saying that they want to actually feel the benefits that the supplements that they take make. And in South Africa alone, complementary medicine and supplementation, the complementary medicine and the supplementation industry, I might say, has become a 9 billion rand industry just over the last couple of years. So, I look back at the last 20 years and I think to myself, we really, really had come a long way since 2000.
We as people underestimate the long term. There's a saying that says, people overestimate short term, in other words, what they can do in a couple of weeks or a couple of months, but they underestimate what they can do in the long term. And as you can see by the statistics over there, what's happened in the last 20 years has been phenomenal. Think about your life 20 years ago. Elize and I were going through this exercise, and I actually had a Nokia 3310, which I think a lot of people had. But that was the start of big things because it had Snake on it. And that's what started up the gaming industry. Now, can you imagine today a life without WhatsApp? I mean, really. So people underestimate what they can do in the long term. So what is possible for us? If you look at Nelson Mandela when he said, it seems impossible until it's done. How many people do you know who've given up just before that miracle happens? And I remember thinking back in our Manatech career and thinking, I'll be honest with you, sometimes I wanted to give up. But always there was that saying that said, never you know how close success lies unless you turn that corner. And I think that's what kept us in the game. We knew that if we just carrying on, we would become successful. And so what about Mahatma Gandhi? He never gave up on his people until they were free. Nelson Mandela hung on to his dream of a united nation, and today we are united. People like Steve Jobs, who for 24 years held on to the vision of thousands of songs on a piece of machine called an iPod. And he also visualized that the apps would take over the shopping world. Or, like Walt Disney, who believed that theme parks would attract people from all over the world and to become part of this imaginary world that he always thought about. Well, Elize and I set our expectations in place when we got married. We came out of a network marketing background. Elize was in the network marketing business and I was in another one. And we knew that when we got married, we actually set what is it that we want out of our lives. And so we sat down together and we said, okay, what is it that we want? And we set our vision in place. But one of our big visions was not to be like everybody else. We didn't want to work an 8 to 5 day and 5 or 6 days a week and worked for 40 years. We wanted to be free. We understood about dreams, and we kept believing that one day they will come true. And I can tell you, there was many times when we kept on writing these things down, and Elize would always send me these notes and said, your dreams are coming true. And many of them, I can tell you now, many of them have come true since we've been involved in Manatech. And also, we've had to reset our goals many times because they do come true. And now, it's time again.
Yes, it's now time again to set some new goals. And now what we do is we look forward to the next 20 years. I mean, if you really think about it, what would perhaps the next 20 years look like for all of us? Well, I can tell you one thing. Driverless cars will probably be the norm, but transportation will therefore be a little bit more affordable. The only catch with that will be in the next 20 years is that you'll be able to drive in a driverless car, but you're going to have to sit inside the car listening to the corporation that sponsored the car, listening to their advertisements all the time. So maybe in 20 years' time, Manatech might also sponsor some driverless cars, and that we put people inside the car and we can play why Manatech's ambertons to them while we're moving from point A to point B. Well, also, 3D printing will be big. There will be no movie theaters any longer, nor will students go to attend classes on a campus, because all of that would be online. The job landscape would change because of that. And antibiotics will no longer be used because they will no longer be effective in 20 years from now, maybe even shorter. And you know what? The food chain will also change because there will be so many people on this planet that we will probably see artificially intelligent controlled hydroponic food gardens on the sides of buildings. We might be eating carrots that was grown in Main Street. You never know. So we will see all these changes if we look at it as from where we stand today in 20 years' time, and we will be part of it. But the question really is, where will you be in 5 years from now? Where will you personally be 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now? You know, it's like we stand at the front door of a new decade, and we are wishing, what are we wishing for ourselves? When we stand in front of this door, what are we wishing? Are our dreams big enough? Do we have conviction that that's what we want, that we can have that? Do we have the conviction that we can make the difference that we want to make, and that we can leave the legacy that we want to leave? That is a question that we need to ponder now as we start a new year, but also a completely new decade. So now is the time to make big plans, to have a vision for 2020, and that 2020 vision to see clearly. But you have to make a plan that scares you and excites you at the same time. So the question is, how do we do that? Now I want to give you a quick but almost foolproof recipe to make your dreams come true in the next 20 years and in the year 2020. The first thing that you would need to do is you need to decide what it is that you want and how big is it that you want it. You have to know what it is. Make a decision about what it is that you want. And then believe that you can have it. Now, some of us might have to spend a little bit more time getting used to the fact of believing that we can have it. But that is the most important second step, is that believing part. Then, next what you need to do about your dream and your goals is to write it down. But I mean, write it down like you mean it. Not like it's a New Year's resolution that gets forgotten by the first Friday in January. Then, once you've written it down, you have to visualize it. You know, I used to lie in bed at night and tell myself the entire story of how this whole thing happened, from the beginning to the end. Make sure that you see it every day and that you see it in a lot of detail. Then, once you've done that, affirm it, say it, sing it, chant it. Whatever you do with it, make sure that you verbalize it. You might even consider doing that in the shower every morning. And then, the next thing you need to do is to act as if you already have it. I remember when Craig and I were going to rank up to go presidential, Craig would send me a WhatsApp message every morning saying, Congratulations to brand new Presidential Director Craig and Elize Ellis. And in the months prior to that, he would edit the SMS that he got from the bank that said that our commission check was paid in, and he would always add zeros at the end and then send them to me. So you have to already act as if you already have it. And then the last thing you need to do is to remember to do the work to get there. Not only the physical work, guys, but also the mind work. Because the success begins in your mind. The way I see the year 2020 is almost like we are standing in front of a door to a huge, scrumptious, delectable feast with everything that our hearts desire. And all we have to do is to open the door and use our mind tools to partake in that feast.
So what is your vision? Is it clear enough? Is it big enough? You know, there's a saying that says, if it don't scare you, it ain't big enough. And I have one of those. It scares me. I've been dreaming about this for the last 30 years now. And what I did was I drew out a picture of exactly what it is that I'm wanting it to look like. And I put it up on in front of my desk. So I have to look at it every single day that I sit in front of my computer. So I can't forget about this. And I know that one day it will come to pass. It scares me and it's huge. And I know that one day it will also make a significant difference in the lives of millions of people. And there's also a saying that says, the dreamers are the ones that build the biggest businesses. So you can dream big. Look at Louis and Leonie van der Linde. The vision is to have 1 million children being nourished through the M5M Foundation. What an amazing vision. But do you know what it's going to take from us in order for that to happen? It'll take a lot of big dreamers. It will take 200 platinums, 2,000 PDs, and millions of people taking our products all over the world. Just think about it. We could change the world. Because of this massive vision, we can really change this world. And because when one has done the impossible, others will follow. And soon it will be that others will follow, and then you will have 5 million children on the Fighter Blend product. And once it's reached 5 million, guess what? We could reach 500 million and more. It all starts with us, keeping our vision alive and never giving up. Our CEO, Al Bala, has big visions too. We know that in the next 5 to 10 years, Manatech Associates will be operating in about 100 countries. Now that for me is very exciting. Imagine as we launch into a new market, you're traveling to visit the people in your team and helping them to grow their businesses in their country, in their hometown, and the other countries around them too. Imagine sitting in your Manatech driverless car, watching video clips and signing up people and training them while you're passing through 5 or 6 European countries and laughing your way all the way to your destination, where thousands of people are waiting to hear from you. Held your vision long enough to experience it coming true. Or what about just leaving your legacy of not having to work in the mainstream of the 95%ers? Imagine for a second that you, through your Manatech business, you empower this knowledge onto your children. And your children, when they start working, they think, you know what, I think I'd rather be like mom and dad and not really have to go to work 9 to 5. And then their children, and their children, and their children. So you are actually empowering your future generations to be living the life where time and money freedom is just there, and they've got the choice to do whatever they want, whenever they want. You know, the amazing thing is that we are already part of this massive movement. The network marketing movement is growing faster than the movie industry, faster than the music industry, faster than the NFL, and combine the whole lot together, we are bigger than all of that. Wellness is becoming $1 trillion industry, and more people want to do good in the world. We're at the right place. We're at the right time. And now, it's your time. And what you choose for yourself in the next 5, 10, or 20 years, I want to encourage you after this call to really take some time out and to write down and to visualize what is your next 20 years going to look like. If you look at your age now and add on 20 years, where would you ideally like to be? Or if it feels like it's way too much, then just try 5 years or try 10 years. But it's very, very important for you to actually understand where you are today is where you need to think about where you'd like to be in the next 10 or 20 years. But please make sure it's scare you and it must excite you at the same time. Because that's the way that you are going to change your world and the world at the same time.